Jonah's story is so much more than a tale of obedience and repentance. It's a profound reflection on God's relentless pursuit of his people, his patience with our imperfections, and his invitation to see the world through his eyes. At the same time, Jonah's journey reveals just how stubbornly we can resist transformation, even when God's hand is so clearly at work. Think about Jonah sleeping during the storm. The sailors are panicking, the ship is about to break apart, and Jonah, he's fast asleep. It's striking. That calmness he shows, it isn't faith in God's mercy, it's resignation. Jonah knows he's running from God, but he's so confident that God won't kill him outright, he's willing to risk everyone else on that ship. That sleep, though, it reflects something deeper, this misplaced confidence that can creep into our own lives. Jonah's familiarity with God's character leads him to presume upon his mercy. He knows God is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in love, and yet that very knowledge makes him complacent. How often do we rest in God's mercy while resisting his call? Jonah's sleep challenges us to wake up, to ask whether we've become too comfortable in our rebellion, assuming God will just keep us safe regardless of how we're living. Then there's Jonah's prayer inside the fish. It's poetic, beautiful, full of gratitude for God's deliverance. He even declares salvation comes from the Lord. It feels like a turning point, doesn't it? But then Jonah emerges from the fish and continues with the same hardened heart. That prayer, while beautiful, wasn't the surrender God was seeking. Jonah acknowledged God's power and deliverance, but didn't let it change him. This really speaks to us, doesn't it? Gratitude is a wonderful starting point, but true transformation requires more than words. Jonah's prayer is a reminder that saying the right things isn't enough. We need to ask ourselves, are our prayers genuine or are they just lip service? Are we truly allowing God to work in our hearts, or are we holding on to control while giving him empty thanks? Even after being saved, Jonah's attitude doesn't shift. He preaches to Nineveh, the city repents, and God spares them. And Jonah? He's angry. So angry he says he'd rather die than see this happen. Why such drama? Jonah doesn't want God's mercy extended to people he considers unworthy. His anger isn't about justice, it's about his inability to align his heart with God's. Yet, God's response is so patient. He doesn't rebuke Jonah harshly. Instead, he asks, "Is it right for you to be angry?" Then, through the plant and the worm, God gently teaches Jonah about misplaced priorities. Jonah cared more about a plant providing him shade than about an entire city full of people. It's humbling, isn't it? It makes us ask ourselves what we prioritize and whether our hearts truly reflect God's compassion. Jonah's story ties all of these elements together. His sleep during the storm shows how we avoid confronting uncomfortable truths. His prayer in the fish reminds us that gratitude is just the beginning of transformation, and his bitterness toward Nineveh highlights the final battleground, our hearts. Even when we've experienced God's mercy, are we willing to extend it to others? Are we willing to let go of our biases and align with God's love? What amazes me most is God's relentless pursuit of Jonah. Through every step, Jonah's rebellion, his half-hearted prayer, his bitterness, God doesn't give up on him. That same relentless mercy is extended to us. God's pursuit of our hearts isn't a one-time event. It's a lifelong process of refining and transforming us into his image. Jonah's story ends with a question. Should I not have concern for that great city? It's unresolved, leaving us to wrestle with the answer, and we embrace God's mercy even when it challenges our understanding. Jonah's story invites us to reflect on how we respond to God's call. Will we sleep through his storms, pray with half a heart, or embrace his mercy fully, even when it asks us to love those we find unlovable? This is Jonah's story, but it's also ours. God doesn't stop pursuing us. He calls us to wake up, to pray with sincerity, and to see the world through his eyes. So how will you respond? Stay blessed, and may we all find the courage to trust in the beauty of God's relentless pursuit. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment